Welcome to the podcast. We do recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
All right, welcome to another episode of We Do Recover. I'm your host, Jared Miller. Today in the lounge, we got your co-host, our medical expert, the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Terry Sellers.
Whoa, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Beautiful morning.
Absolutely it is. We also have in the house the guy that makes this thing possible, the producer, Sean Denovan.
That's what I do.
And finally, our featured guest, the proud owner of Recovery Strong, Jared Shaw.
Woo!
What's up, everybody?
This podcast is recorded in sunny St. George, Utah. Episode 27, Part 1 is brought to you by Steps Recovery Centers, where addiction ends and healing begins. Listen to me, listen. If your loved one needs help, please reach out to them. Give them a call, 801-800-8142. They really are an awesome organization. Everything from detox to outpatient, they got you taken care of. Well, it is another beautiful week. It's not cloudy outside.
Yeah.
That's my new and good. What's yours, Dr. Sellers?
All you got is it's not cloudy?
Yeah, you know.
Come on, give us something.
Okay, so
Tell me about, are you engaged?
I am engaged.
Yeah, what's going on there? Like wedding plans. Tell me about that kind of stuff.
Okay, so it's going to be,
Let's talk about Mandy Repko for a second.
7/14/21 is going to be the official date.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. We're going to get married up in Logan Canyon.
Oh,
Yeah, it's going to be on a Wednesday. Weird, but it's fine. It'll work. We're going to have family up there in Tony's Grove. It's going to be beautiful. And then we're going to escape to Bear Lake for a few days and rent some toys and play around up there, some four-wheelers, maybe some water skis, and have some fun. And then come back that Saturday and actually do the reception at my brother's. My brother he has what I call stupid money. Like he has a beautiful house in Farmington with a pool, basketball court, huge fenced in, beautiful landscape, oversees a big like canyon area. So it'll be nice. We're just going to do like a barbecue there and hang out. If you want to swim, you can swim. You want to eat, you can eat. You want to, play board games. I'm a board game player, dude.
what?
Come
over to my house, dude.
Code names is like my jam.
You play Settlers?
I haven't played that.
Oh,
no.
we'll get you in on that.
Yeah.
Okay, how
Thank
much
you,
better
though.
than that? How much better than it's not cloudy was that new and good? Right
I love
there,
that.
See?
Thank you.
Your
Thank
face
you.
lit up. You got to talk about something fun.
Thank
it's
you,
not
Sellers.
cloudy out, guys. Hey,
All right. Well, I set the bar. Let's see if you can match it.
I
What's your
got
new and
nothing.
good?
I got nothing at all. Like I can't think of a single thing. If you've listened to the podcast at all, you guys know I work in Richfield on Thursdays, and so I usually, when I'm in studio, I drive here from Richfield. So we got in last night about 2 a.m, and I got to bed about 3. Woke up with a migraine. I'm fighting it now, but that's not new and good, is it? That's terrible.
You woke up.
But you know what?
There you go.
I'm sober and clean today.
Amen.
And I was yesterday too, and a whole lot of yesterdays before that. So
I'll take that as a
life
new and
is
good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, my life is so much better than it once was. So that's all
Absolutely.
that counts. Jared, you get Jared. So our guest is Jared Shaw. We always start this with something new and good. You got anything new and good in your life?
Lots of new and goods. I mean, just one, I'm down here in St. George. It is sunny. It's not cloudy. I'm heading back north to go snowmobiling tomorrow morning, so I get a little bit of both worlds. So
Hold on, Jared. Right?
yeah,
Like-
you can come. We got we got a couple sleds. You can come ride.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Sweet.
Let's all go.
yeah. So anytime you guys want to go, hit me up.
All right, sweet.
Yeah, and I'm sober. You know,
Yeah.
Every day I would get to wake up and I got to be sober. You know,
Yeah.
I saw it when I was working out. I did a workout this morning in the parking lot of the hotel at 7 a.m. so I could get it done, and saw a guy diving for food in a dumpster. And
Oh, geez.
that's not me today, and I don't have to be that way, and you know, nothing but love for that guy. But I'm glad to be where I'm at.
Yeah.
What a good perspective, man.
Yeah, that
that
is
makes you appreciate things, doesn't
And the
it?
guy talked to me too. He said it's his birthday today, and I said, "Happy birthday." He said, "Well, it's not really my birthday today. Every day's a birthday." You know, and so, you know, and anyway, so it was cool to kind of have a little conversation with the guy that was in the dumpster, and just, you know, it put things into perspective for me this morning early.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that.
I hope you found my Bacon King in the garbage. So we're driving down. It's like, I don't know, it was midnight or 1 a.m, and my wife decided she hadn't had anything for dinner yet, so she wanted a burger. So we stopped at Burger King, and they have a Bacon King. I don't know if you've ever gotten one of those, but
Sounds good.
how fat have we become as a country when they're serving us a burger? Literally, this thing was...
He's holding up like 8 inches
Yeah,
wide.
like this thing's
8
shut.
inches deep.
I could not
Feed a
believe
family.
that. Yeah, that I couldn't even come close to finishing that thing. I probably finished a third of it. So yeah, apparently I could not believe that's just like a standard menu item. It was so big.
Yeah. You brought Melody down, huh?
Yeah, she's
Nice,
here.
nice.
She's back at the hotel,
Good
still
deal.
sleeping because, of course, she got to bed at 2 a.m.
If
also.
I'd have known that, I'd have invited her to be the co-host. I
Oh,
like her
she
better
would have
than
been
you.
way better for sure. Yeah, that's true. For
Let's
sure.
get Sean Denovan's new and good. What's going on in the world of Sean?
Nothing. Thanks for asking.
Well, way to shed some sunlight on the podcast.
Oh, no. Side Hustle's doing good. P.S. We need to postpone the podcast next week. I'm going to be out of town again.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah. So, but this is the big one. This is the one I've been looking forward to. So I'm actually building a couple of different radio studios. So I'm excited for that.
nice.
It's my thing. I'm excited. Nobody else is excited. I'm excited.
That's awesome.
so to our listeners, we might not have a podcast episode next week.
Well, it will be. You'll still have a podcast episode. It just won't be Facebook Live.
Okay.
I got you.
Can figure
We'll
that
work
out.
it out. Don't worry.
I got you.
Everybody's fine. Everything's great.
TBA, to
Hugs
be
and kisses.
announced.
No,
Everyone
I just
gather in.
I was just going to blame it on you is all. I was just going to say we may not have an episode next week, but please don't blame either of us. It's Sean's fault. All right.
You asked.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I know you love that stuff. That's fun stuff for you. So, shall we get started and talk about Jared Shaw?
I'm so excited for this. What a cool
Yeah.
dude. This guy's a dirt bike rider. He just shared he's getting ready to do snowmobile stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I really am genuinely
Yeah, the
excited.
guy's living life, it sounds like.
He
huh?
is.
All right, let's hear about it. So, we've done this podcast in a couple of different ways, and we've changed the format. It used to be a 30-minute podcast, and so we really just focused on here and now, and what's going on in your life. But and then we changed it to where we wanted to hear how you got to here and now. But then we did the focus on here and now first, and then did the early part of your life last. And
I'm
then,
already confused.
right,
Yeah.
listeners got all
Simplify
confused. And so what we're doing now is we start chronologically. So let's start with Jared Shaw as a kid. Like, where'd you grow up? Tell us about your family of origin. Tell us that sort of stuff.
Jared Shaw. I was born in Bountiful. Grew up in Kaysville, Fruit Heights, actually.
Oh, wait,
So-
I'm going to stop you because we don't actually do it all that way.
It's okay.
I
What's wrong
want
with
to. I want to talk about just briefly though. We're going to go back to this, I promise. But I'm confused this morning. I apologize. I'm all over the place. I migraine sometimes. I have a migraine this morning, and I take Excedrin sometimes for my migraines. And I took a number of Excedrin this morning that is greater than some number that you're supposed to take. So I got a lot of caffeine going, and I'm sipping on a Dr. Pepper. So I'm all over the place. Tell us just right now, Jared Shaw. We don't want to delve into this, but I just want to know, like, tell us about your not family of origin, but your current family or what your living situation is, what you're doing in your life, and then we'll come back to that in more detail later. But I just want to know a little bit about what's going on in your life right now.
Perfect. I'm 39 years old. Going to be the big 40 coming up here, and just turned 39 in November. Live in Mountain Green now, just up the canyon from where I grew up. I have a
Wait, where's Mountain Green?
Mountain Green's right up Weber Canyon.
Weber Canyon,
Base of
okay.
Snow Basin, basically. So about a 20-minute drive from where I grew up, and feels like you've gone through the country and you're out of the city. So got two boys, River and Ridge as their names. And so
Cool names, huh?
Way cool.
Got a girlfriend named Tana. We live I live in a house, which is pretty cool. You know, we own a house together, and
That was not possible at one point
it
in your
was
life,
not.
right?
So that's a huge thing. I live with people. I pay taxes. I actually I went to Zion's, and I actually had like a yearly national parks pass. Like that's how old I'm getting, and how I have a national parks pass. So it's like, man, you're growing up. So, but yeah, I'm a construction worker. I own a construction company. Own a concrete plant in Kaysville as well. And then I own Recovery Strong. And so I guess I'm an entrepreneur. Somehow I figured out how to do that, but still learn every day. And then just grateful to be sober.
Wow.
So,
okay, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. That is exactly what I wanted to hear. How old are River and Ridge? If you said it, I'm sorry if I missed it.
They're 17 months apart, and I'm probably River will be 3 years old in a week.
Oh, how fun is that age, right?
He's definitely a handful, and then Ridge is 17 months younger, so whatever the math is on that. He's somewhere in there, 17 months, 19 months. And he's like the little sweetheart who loves his dad, like in the morning, my girlfriend told me he wakes up, dad, and I'm not there right now. So, but River, the 3-year-old's a handful, but he's fun.
I got to share a little story. So I called Jared and we're talking about having him come on, right? We're getting everything ironed out. And in the background, I'm just hearing, and he's like, oh, sorry, hang on a sec. Hey, knock it off for a minute. 2 minutes later, hey, he's got his hands full. You're a blessed guy, bro.
Yeah,
You're a blessed guy.
For sure. So
there is nothing better than, and I get it, the kids squabble sometimes too, but the voices of children.
It was fun.
Like sometimes it can drive you insane a little bit, right? But man, that's the sound of joy right there.
Like
right?
She sent me a video that just all of a sudden, like your iPhone will put a video together or something, and she sent me one of she just got from trips to Wyoming, and it was from doing some bike races and stuff like that. But it was just like last night she sent it, and 2-minute video of all these pictures of him as a baby growing up, and it just brought me to tears. I'm like, this is where my life is today. Like this is amazing. So I'm just blessed. So
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm getting a little anxious though. I want to give him enough for part one.
Okay, sorry. I'm not.
You're good.
I'm not
okay.
even paying attention. I'm having so much fun. I can't stand it. So let's go back to that original question: family of origin, where you grew up, kind of what your home life was like, brothers and sisters, parents, that sort of stuff.
And I want to know about the trauma that led to your substance abuse disorder.
So like I said, I grew up in Bountiful, or not grew up. I was born in Bountiful. I'm right in the middle child of 6 kids. So siblings. I've got 3 older and 2 younger. So I'm right in the middle, which probably is a lot of the reason why I'm a recovering addict. So,
how so?
Yeah, just got lost in the mix, I think. Okay. But, my family was awesome. Like, raised LDS, but still just didn't quite fit into anything I did. I was always my older brother. Do you want to get into this kind of stuff, or is this?
No, I love it. I love it. But the reason I just popped up was almost every single podcast so far, I just felt like I didn't fit in. That's a common theme.
Yeah, good point.
Almost every podcast we've done, people say how they felt like they didn't fit in as a kid.
Yeah. My older brother, who's 17 months older than me. So I look at River and I Ridge, and I'm like, I'm Ridge of that relationship, and I look at that and the dynamic, and he was the soccer player that was way awesome, had all the attention, and I was always just in the shadows, just trying to be little brother and wanted to be big brother and stuff like that, and so, but my family was loving, we never went without. We weren't rich by any means. We had what we needed. And, but just somewhere in there, we can go to, I found some pills, and that's where kind of the trauma, I don't know where the trauma started other than I was a nervous kid. When I look back, when I went to treatment and I look back in my life, I realized how nervous of a kid I actually was. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's where a lot of the trauma I think comes from, is not fitting in, not knowing where I am in life, and am I really worth it?
That's cool. You've been able to identify that through the interpersonal work that you did while you were in treatment. Yeah. Like, that's really cool. So,
what? Wait, I got to stop this. I know that we're disjointed a little bit, but I love it. Why did you say that? Like, tell us about the trauma that led to your addiction.
Because I'm a firm believer that I hear this all the time. I work in the field of, substance abuse, and I hear, I just wanted to just get high. And I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like that's a cop-out. I feel like there's always an underlying emotion that leads to, look, you don't wake up one day and feel happy, healthy, happy-go-lucky and go, yeah, I think I'll start to abuse a substance, right? like maybe my perception from this is wrong, but I feel like there's
and that's actually why I wanted to bring that up is I don't totally subscribe to that theory. I think it's, but I just think it's a little bit of semantics, really. I think the trauma thing is rampant, but not universal. Like, I don't think every single person, I can't come up with a trauma unless you call migraine headaches a trauma, but it doesn't feel like trauma to me.
Yeah,
just was pain.
Some
people start with pain, right? A lot of people blow out their knee and get prescribed pills. So I'm not sure if I believe that, everyone, but for sure it's rampant. So, okay, keep moving along.
That's my story too, as far as both of those are, I think being a kid and being nervous, like maybe you don't understand the trauma. Well, I didn't at the time, but then as I look back, like I understand it a little bit better now. Obviously I'm not having those same feelings that I had as a little kid, but still, when I was 14 or 15, my brother, we had soccer tryouts for the competition teams, and I wanted to be on the team above me, and my dad was the assistant coach, and this was the team to be as in Bountiful Cougars. And I remember,
go Cougars.
Yeah, Cougar. Yeah. So but I went and tried out, and I got put on as everybody. You'd go to Scoreboard Sports in Bountiful, and you read the names on who made the team. And I've done that a lot of times. I never got cut, but this was the team, like the team to be on. And I tried out, and I got down there, I read my name, and my name was alternate Jared Shaw, because you could only have so many people on the team, and my dad was the assistant coach. And so I lived that whole year being on a team that I don't think I really was good enough to be on in the first place, but nobody had the honesty to tell me either. Like, my dad should have just probably sat me down and be like, Jared, you're probably not going to be on this team. Go play. But the thing is, I played on that team for a year. I got better.
Did you play?
No. So we went to a tournament in Arizona, and this is probably where I felt probably that whole dynamic of I'm not good enough started to settle in. I'm in junior high, maybe right into high school. Went to a tournament. We were in like a championship game or semifinals, and I was the only one that didn't get put in the whole game. I sat the whole game, and I think like that bred this mentality in me that I'm not going to ever make it. But then the next year, it was a little bit different. I went down a year and I played, but having played with all the people that were better, I was number one on that team, that still wasn't good enough because the trauma or the belief system was already there. It didn't have enough to outweigh that I was better than the other kids. But so, it was a learning experience.
By seeing your name next to the word alternative, the underlying message for you was, we'll let you come along, but you're not quite good enough.
Yeah, your dad's the assistant coach, so we don't want to make you feel bad. Yeah, it's a participation trophy is what it was. But, yeah.
So do you remember a point, because you went kind of vague on us about somewhere along the line there was some pills. Do you remember how that happened?
Oh, I remember the day. Yeah. Yes, I worked in... I was a sophomore at Davis High. I had a headache like you had this morning. Yeah. Went into my mom's medicine cabinet. Saw take for pain. Took one. I know it was Lortab. I read that, and I didn't know what they were at this point.
Right.
Took one. Went to school. Was building portables that they have in my carpentry class. Sitting on the roof, and then that feeling came where everything just like, whoa, what is this? And I remember that feeling when they used to say, only one time you become an addict, all it takes is one time. And I didn't realize it until later on in life, but that was the one time, that feeling I chased for a long time. So lots of pills. My best friend's dad was a pharmacist in high school, so we had endless amounts of pain medication. He was the pharmacy tech. But it wasn't an everyday thing at that point. It was still dabbling, and I didn't drink until I was a senior, I think. But the night I did drink, I ended up getting 2 alcohol tickets in one night. I went and talked to a cop. That's how smart I am, because I was that everybody likes me kind of guy. So I drank, and I went and talked to the school cop at the 7-Eleven and got a ticket. And then later that night, I was like, well, I already got a ticket. They're not going to give me another one. I got another one that night. So, so from the get-go, alcohol and pills were a problem, but it took me years of pain and trauma to figure that out. So, but
there you go.
Yeah,
that's so fun. I think it's hilarious. Right? He's like, I'm Mr. Popular. Hey, Mr. Cop, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, let's chop it up.
Officer Barlow.
Officer Barlow.
Have you been drinking, funny. Jared? Yeah.
Do I have to answer that question?
Oh man.
Oh, he didn't care at that point, right?
Yeah. I think I had like one Zima. So yeah,
Way to pound it.
Look, though, I mean, we all can do some knucklehead stuff back in the day, right? At what point did it really, I guess, try to take hold of you? At what point did you recognize that your, as they say, your life had become unmanageable?
When so I went down, I chased a girl down to UVU, out of high school, and went and tried out for their soccer team. And
Go Cougars. Oh wait, they're not the Cougars.
I'm not smart enough to be a Cougar.
The Wolverines.
But yeah, so it was UVSC at that time, and so I went and tried out for the soccer team. Chasing a girl that was at BYU, and broke my kneecap the first half hour of tryouts, and just broke it in half. Went to the doctor. They pulled a bunch of blood out of it, and I had to drop out of school because I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I was on crutches, and there was a lot of stairs at that place, and I just kind of gave up. And so I went home. My dad took me fishing, and we were in my truck. Or no, I went fishing, and my dad saw in my truck a bottle of pills that was just filled like a day before, and it was a full bottle. He looked at the prescription filled date, and a day later they were all gone. So my dad
should have been a full bottle.
Yeah.
But it
yeah.
wasn't.
My dad brought it to me and said, "Hey, do you need help? What's going on here?" And so that was kind of like, okay, the starting point of I'm starting to use these to cope with life. More of, it's not just a thing I do on the weekends anymore. And then OxyContin came into play. I ended up going to Utah State, and that was big when OxyContin came in, and I got hooked on Oxy. And then that was at the point where I had to use every day within 3 months. That was when my life just went to hell.
That's when the physical dependency really was there.
What was your reaction the first time when your dad said, "Hey, do you need some help"? Was that denial, or did you accept it at that point?
I didn't accept help. I think he recognized that I was hurting in some sort of way. I'm the only kid in our family that suffers from addiction out of 6 kids. And so I'm the only one that carries that flag and banner, which is cool because it's opened up awareness throughout our family. But I don't know what he thought. I just don't think he just probably didn't want his son to die, taking a bunch of pills. And so at that point, I think that the cat came out of the bag, but it wasn't till later that there was actually any sort of, my life had to get a lot worse before I got help.
Sure.
So,
I don't know if I know anybody that accepted help the first time it was offered. Like, that's not common, right? Because part of the disease is, one of the things about the disease is denial is really strong.
yeah.
It's not that uncommon in diseases, right? People don't want to know they have cancer. People don't want to accept that. People don't want to accept that they have diabetes. I mean, addiction's not unique in that respect, for sure.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to feel broken, which is, by the way, the opposite of a disease. But that's kind of how you feel when somebody confronts you with that.
See, and that was like the time where all my friends were either in school, going on missions, doing the things in life that normal, I guess, people do in our area of life, and I didn't want to ever go on a mission. Just for some reason, just didn't want to do it. And I never did. I went and worked on a ranch, and, but I just felt like that was the time where my life went a different way than everybody else's. And then once again, I'm not normal like all these other guys. I can't figure this life out, like I'm going to be a mess up. So, but yeah, the confidence level just took off, and then you go home and you're like, why aren't you going on your mission? I'm like, when you're 19, I'm like, I don't know. I just don't want to go, but you feel there's a lot of shame in that too. Looking at your parents, not my parents, but my friends' parents, that kids were on a mission. So yeah, it's tough to swallow all that.
Yeah. There's almost like an underlying, well, what's wrong with you if you're not going to go then, right? Like this, and maybe I'm, again, speaking out of context, but that's the way I've had it perceived to me. Well, if you're not, everybody does this. If you're not doing it, then there must be something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting close to being out of time on this segment, but how were you obtaining your medications at this point?
Well, after I, not doctor shopping, I wasn't seeking it all the time. I just knew I could get refills. I wasn't buying it on the streets at this time. It wasn't until I started doing OxyContin when I was about 23 years old, and that's when I started buying medication from people that I knew in the area. people that have been on this podcast before, so it's just kind of interesting to see.
We won't name
Yeah,
their
we
names.
won't, but or family of friends. But yeah, it just, that's when OxyContin came into my life, that's when life really went downhill, and I felt the first time actually having a physical withdrawal in Lake Powell on a houseboat, because I didn't know about withdrawals quite yet.
Yeah.
It was a rude awakening.
That's a tough way to learn, right?
Yep.
Well, okay, so we're just about out of time, and we'll wrap it up here. But join us in the second segment, because we're going to get back to Jared's story of recovery.
After this 30-second break from our sponsor.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller, sponsored by Steps Recovery Center and the Hilton Garden Inn.
I'm Desmond Lomax, one of the clinical executives here at Steps Recovery, and once you become with the Steps family, you're just a part of the Steps family. A lot of us have overcome substances, overcome addiction, and now we're able to help other people. Second of all, we're also going to help you in a way where you can afford to be helped. Third of all, we're going to give you the same quality that many organizations are charging 2 to 3 times, and it's more about you than it is about our organization.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
All right. Welcome back. Episode 27, part 2, featuring Jared Shaw, the owner of This Sweet Swag. What a nice guy. He brought every single one of us some swag this morning. Recovery strong. What is the motto, cool. Jared?
What is the motto?
Yeah.
Fighting addiction, strengthening recovery.
I love it, dude. I love it. So episode 27, part 2 is brought to you by the Hilton Garden Inn. It's always sunny and bright at the Hilton Garden Inn in St. George, Utah. If you're traveling through southern Utah, give them a Google search. Just type in Hilton Garden Inn, St. George, Utah. They have amazing amenities. I promise you won't regret it. Like, beautiful place. Love it. We love the Hilton.
Yeah, I love it. I stay there almost every time I'm down, and I love it.
How was your
good to us?
Yeah, absolutely. How was your stay last night?
It was awesome. I stayed there 2 nights in a row. So I came down here on Wednesday night and ended up staying, and it was a really nice hotel. So first time I've ever been there.
Beautiful. One thing I want to, in jumping back into your story, one thing I want to point out is you had a legitimate knee injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Sellers asked a very great question. He said, "How do you obtain this?" Right? And I have I can relate because I shattered my ankle, and literally years later, I would go into my doctor. It wasn't, as you know, Dr. Sellers, I'm sure it wasn't really regulated as much at the time. Years later, I'd go into my doctor and be like, "Oh yeah, I think I need something," and he's like, "Here you go."
Yeah.
Thank God it's not like that nowadays, right? But I should point that out.
I'm old. I remember when you used to have to go, ride your Brontosaurus to the doctor's office, and then he'd write you out, chisel you out a prescription on a piece of stone. So,
I like it.
But they gave it away like candy, so it was fine. All right, let's get back into it. So, bring us around to when things really started to get bad, and what your rock bottom was, maybe if there's a moment as to when you thought, I'm not going to do this anymore. I got to change my life.
Yeah. We just talked about being on the houseboat and the physical withdrawals from opiates, OxyContin.
What a great place to detox on a houseboat.
Nothing like a houseboat toilet to just go. But I didn't know what was happening to me. I was so naive to, I didn't Google stuff back then. I just, if I did, I don't even know if Google was around back then. Right. But so I kind of sensed I just felt sick. But OxyContin I had to have every day. And so we got back home and I started buying stuff. And this was the same time when I started my company, my construction company. I was working at a law firm. I was being a runner downtown, which is a great job for somebody who needs OxyContin, because you can go take stuff to the courthouse. You can go take stuff to other law firms. In the meantime, stop by and buy some dope or buy some pills from you. But I noticed that's when it was everyday use. And so I started this other company that I own now, a road construction company. And I remember my first big check, you know, it was like $1,000 or something like that. And I went and I was like, cool, I can go buy a lot of pills right now. And in my mind at that time, the more money I make, it's not going to affect my drug use because I can afford drugs and I can still grow in society, you know, but so I share this when I tell my story is that OxyContin actually gave me courage to work, and it gave me some sort of a work ethic because it got me out of bed. It got me to do the things that I was supposed to. It made me responsible for like 6 months. You know, it showed me that if I go do this, I can get that, and then I can pay for the things that I need. But soon, you know, when you start running out of money and you start getting withdrawals, you can't get your fix, you know, that's when things started hitting the fan. And I ended up losing my company to my brother. The older brother, once again, comes back into the scene because I couldn't, you know, this is probably 6 months down the line. Bank account is negative. I can't, you know, zero credit. I couldn't get checks in my name anymore because these construction companies that I was working for wanted to have a business license and entity number, and which was all new to me, you know, and so I couldn't even open a checking account to cash checks in my company name that I own. So my brother had to take over the company. So there's another resentment, you know, the responsible, better looking, older, more athletic brother gets to take over my way of living. And so there was a lot of that for a lot of years. And then, you know, my rock bottom was just, I never went to jail, never went to prison, never got arrested, but it was just an emotional, a physical, and a spiritual just bottom. And I remember, you know, going down to Mesquite and taking just tons of money, you know, about 10,000 I stole from the company, and went down and I blew it in Mesquite, and just within 2 days, just blew it all. And my brother,
10 grand.
You didn't
I ran out, just lost it all.
You put it all on green, did you?
I don't know what I did with it, but we lost it really fast, me and myself. So, but then I had the nerve to call my brother because it was paycheck time. So he delivered a paycheck to my work truck, and it had a pay stub in there from the check I stole from the company. And so he found out, you know, and that caused a big family meeting at the. Man. So it was a way of getting caught, but it was a way of getting honest too. And I had to go into this meeting with my grandparents, all 6 kids, you know, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" Yada yada yada. And I'm telling everybody it's their fault, you know, like you guys. It just lots of yelling. And then my oldest sister came upstairs. It was at her dance studio in Kaysville, and she just calmly just asked, "Hey, Jared, do you need help?" You know, and it was that one question, not yelling. It was actually just a sincere, quiet, "Do you need help?" And I just remember I just broke down. That's when the walls came down, and I said yes. You know, like I finally I gave up, you know, fighting for a minute, you know, and so checked into treatment the next day, I think, or 2 days after that. And so, yeah, I think I was 23 years old, and I didn't know anything about addiction at this time. I knew AA, but my grandpa was an alcoholic, and I didn't like the name. So I never was an alcoholic, and, you know, just trying to sort out the shame behind all the stigmas and stuff like that, which has been really cool for me. But went to a treatment center, Renaissance Ranch, stayed sober for about 2 years, and then got in a relationship. And that brought me down. I stopped going to meetings, stopped doing the things I needed, and I went back. You know, one of my employees asked if I wanted to Lortab, so back again to Lortab. And I'm like, you know, I've been sober for almost 2 years. I can handle 1 or 2. Ended up being a 5-year bender, taking almost losing everything once again, you know, and getting older. And as you get older, I think you get a little more mature, and you realize, okay, you're throwing your whole life away for this stuff. Like, you go to work. I couldn't even go to work, actually. I'd have employees call me, and I'd be in bed waiting to get some pills so I could actually show up to my own work, my own company.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's rough. So, and one thing I love that you said this, and I want to point out, is we've talked about this being a disease, right? And I think a lot of people can relate to your story with that, with the relapse, because we go to treatment and we learn how to do our best to deal with this disease of addiction. And then we get out, maybe for a time, we are continuing to do those things, meditate, you know, go to meetings, work on ourselves physically, work on ourselves mentally, like grow, right? Spiritual growth, all those things. But then at some point we get comfortable and we stop.
Yep. Yeah, that's the theme.
And it's like, if you had cancer and you had to go get treatment, you wouldn't just do it a couple times and then go,
stop.
"Oh, I'm good."
No, yeah, I got this. I got cancer.
If I had diabetes, I wouldn't go, you know what? I've taken insulin long enough. I'm good.
Probably fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can probably do it without insulin now.
So I'm glad that you shared that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a common theme that I think that it's another. I like to point out the common themes we hear over and over. And the one earlier was I don't fit in, and then this one is, the sort of denial that eventually comes, but that always results in. Oh, so I've heard this story 1,000 times, and it always starts with I stopped going to meetings. Like when I say it always starts, not always, but I hear that story so many times. Well, I stopped going to meetings. Well, I've heard it so many times that I know it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I don't need to try that one because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks. That's a common theme, and I love the common themes. So I think if we can reiterate those themes over and over, eventually somebody's going to hear that and maybe not have to try it for themselves.
And maybe even just stay connected, like it might be I fell out, I started hanging out with the wrong people again, the people that didn't think the way I thought. But what happened though, the first time I went to recovery or into treatment was I learned about the disease. I learned about that it wasn't, I wasn't a bad person. I learned that I can be healed. When I was in treatment, I didn't still think wasn't an alcoholic. I was just a pill addict.
And it's way different in your mind, right?
Like they were, because I would go to tons of rodeos, and I would go party at rodeos with my buddy who calf roped, and all cowboys drink beer. Like that's what you do. You drink beer and whiskey. And so I would tell my counselors, like, yeah, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I just need to stop doing Oxycontin and my life will be good, But the cool thing about it is I was honest the whole first 58 days of my treatment. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get out and I'm going to drink. I was honest about it. Finally, they taught me, or something clicked in my head that, like, hey, you're an alcoholic too. They helped me see that, but it was the honesty that I had with what my intentions were that saved me for a little while. But then when I did relapse, all that stuff that I learned, it somehow came back out later on in life, 5 or 6 years later, because I knew that there was something better out there for me than the way I was living. And when I was taking full bottles of, I didn't do Oxycontin at this time. So I was taking lots of bottles of Percocet and with Tylenol in it. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night and checking my eyes and my body and making sure I wasn't turning yellow yet because I was worried about liver failure just because of the Tylenol in it.
This is such a common theme. We're putting all this poison in our bodies and we're worried about the Tylenol component of it, right? Like the Tylenol is not necessarily the most destructive part of the Percocet.
See, I don't know that, but I just read it.
No, but everybody feels the same way. Listen, I'm a physician, and I used to do that.
Yeah.
I used to take Darvocet, which you guys aren't even old enough to remember, but Darvocet it had an opiate called propoxyphene in it, and not nearly as potent as hydrocodone or oxycodone, and 650 milligrams of Tylenol in it. And I used to worry about the same thing. And listen, Tylenol can be damaging to your liver, but the damage in my life came not from the Tylenol portion of it, right? I mean, it was the propoxyphene portion that was ruining my life.
Oh yeah.
So it's funny that we focus on that though.
But the thing is I'd look in the mirror, I wouldn't be yellow yet.
Yeah.
So I'm still got.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I can keep going. I don't have to stop till I turn yellow.
Yeah, exactly. So I would go actually get my liver checked at the doctor just to make sure I was good, And there were some scary instances in between there, but and then finally when I just had enough, it was just I was sick of spending I knew I couldn't sustain the life. I was either going to die an addict and die from, I was convinced I was going to die of liver failure. Which scared me enough to finally reach out for help again and say, hey, I've given up, and that was a spiritual bottom, emotional, physical. And that was January 5th of 2015, maybe nice. 6th. I can't ever remember. It's the 5th or 6th, but that's when I gave up again. And that was over 6 years ago. So
how much humility did that have to take, right? Because I know there's like a camaraderie or like a feeling of, right? It's like he loves the Cougars because he went to BYU. A lot of the treatment centers are like that too. Like you see, step stuff, you see different treatment center stuff. So was it difficult for you to call Renaissance Ranch back and say, hey.
I reached out to him a couple times through text, what saved me. It's kind of like the prayer, save me right now. So I'm having withdrawals. So can I get into treatment? That'll fix me. But it wasn't hard because I just finally had enough. Like I knew it wasn't sustainable and I knew that I was ready. I'm not saying that was the day that I quit, because I remember going into my counselor's that day after taking 30 Percocets 4 hours before having our assessment, and he's like, "Are you high right now?" And I said, "No." It's like, like I thought I had him licked, but yeah.
Come on, counselor, why would I be high right now?
So he was on. He just said, "Hey, come back in 5 days or 4 days," and and that's when that was it. So when I just came back, and when I want to do something, I'll put every effort I can into doing something, and so from that day forward, that's when life started changing, just gave it my everything. So.
All right. So let's transition we got to move towards the super, sorry. I didn't want to cough into the microphone, but we got to move on to the super cool stuff you're doing now.
The good stuff.
We got, we got 11 minutes left or so. So,
okay.
Okay. You went to Renaissance Ranch for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually got clean. Did you get clean, right? Like, was the ranch it? Was that the last time you used?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got out of the ranch and have stayed continuously sober and clean for that amount since you got out of the ranch?
Yep. 6. I did outpatient, so I wasn't ever in.
Okay.
I did the inpatient first, but yeah, so 6 years ago. And, and we can kind of tie it into Recovery Strong. We talked about this a little bit earlier about where Recovery Strong came from. I was, I think, about 30 days, 90 days in treatment. And one of our counselors asked, what are you going to do to change the stigma or the perspective of recovery that people have, and I did a lot of cycling at that point. I've done a lot of races. I've done races throughout here in St. George. Last race I did down here, before that, I quit over by Gunlock Reservoir because I was on a bunch of Adderall and I thought my heart was going to blow up. So, but I thought of Lance Armstrong's Live Strong Foundation and I thought of Recovery Strong. It just kind of popped into my head. And before the end of the night, I had like the domain. I told Jared that I owned Recovery Strong off the jump, but I didn't. I actually had to buy it. I had to go in there and buy the domain from somebody else who owned it. Mm-hmm. And I offered him $500 and they came back with an offer of $400. And I was like, oh, sweet. Well, that's that's how I do business. So,
yeah. That guy's not a very good businessman.
No, so apparently. It was actually quite comical, but and it was just kind of something that came to me. And I was actually really, it made me energized in recovery, first part of recovery, to build something. And I watched Addict to Athlete. I watched Ian with Fit to Recover. I watched him build his gym, but I watched him build that stuff and then do those things on Facebook while I was dying in my room, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so up in where I live, I wanted to start something that was cool and that could be, that people could wear and be aware of, and so I started doing the Recovery Strong bracelets and graduated treatment. Yeah. And I give those out to anybody. I try and get, those are, I buy thousands of them every couple months and I try and just give them away, so people can wear them. And it's the coolest thing. Like this morning, I got an email from somebody from back east. My brother forwarded it to me about just thanking me, which is kind of selfish because I don't look at myself this way. I'm on Instagram and on social media. I don't like to do that kind of stuff. It's awkward for me. It's like this, get out of your comfort zone type things. Yeah. But he sent me an email today saying that he loves what I do and thank you for inspiring him. He's struggling right now. And so it's those little moments where it's like, hey, I'm helping do something good, and then I was getting a coffee this morning and over at Dutch Brothers, and this girl asked me, what are you doing down here? I'm like, hey, we're going to record a podcast. She's like, oh, what's it about? And she saw my truck and she's like, well, do you talk about food addiction? I'm like, it's all the same. Like whatever, if you're struggling, I'm going to send you the link to the podcast and just listen to it. And it's all just something that's, we can all be better people. Recovery Strong is a mindset, I think, of just living your life and it's filling it up with good things. Yeah. And that's what I do every day. Like I'm blessed.
I think of like camaraderie or like union when I think of Recovery Strong. Like, look, by ourselves, we've learned this from COVID. By ourselves, we're not that great. No, we're not. But you get a group of people together that all believe in the same thing and all want to move in the same direction. Now you have a movement.
Now you got a force.
Yeah. And I've talked about this before. I love Recovery Strong. I love everything it stands for. you know, there's also Lit on Life down here. I love these sober brands because we're changing the narrative.
Yep.
We're taking something that in the past has been looked on as cliche or, you know, kind of, and basically saying, no, like that, we're not going to live like that anymore. Like we're proud. We're going to change the narrative.
Yeah, and that's what the girl over at Dutch Brothers, she was actually like, well, I guess you're not really supposed to talk about that stuff. I'm like, no, we are supposed to talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. So it was a cool experience to have. But yeah, and I just, all these people that came before me just kind of set the example that, you know, when I went to treatment the first time, all you did was AA, you know, like now there's sober gyms. Now there's other ways to keep you interacting and
Connected.
Connected. So
I think that's a critical factor because people often think of, so you get clean finally, right? And then the concept is, well, I just have to stay clean the rest of my life. Well, that's not recovery. That's sobriety maybe, but it's not really recovery. If you don't fill, and you said this, if you don't fill yourself up with things and activities and other things that, first of all, make life fun, and second of all, help you find connection, then you might as well, I mean, the whole sitting, I'm just going to sit on my hands and not use drugs and alcohol is not, I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't even sound like life, but you got to figure out how to fill it up with good stuff.
Well, like, so yesterday I went and I hiked Angel's Landing,
Yeah.
you know, trying to get some exercise in, and we started at about 8:00, and I was scared to do that chain section. I've never done the actual hike up to Angel's Landing. I was scared, but yesterday I got up there and I talked to I had a little conversation with myself, and I said, dude, you've done harder things than that. So just go do it. And it was the coolest thing because I knew I was coming in here and this is hard for me to do too. I'm like, you know, if you can go do that, you can do this tomorrow, you know? So it's like that pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. Snowmobiling. I bought the snowmobiles last year. I've never snowmobiled in my life. I wanted to do something in the winter because we're slower in construction and to be able to have fun and get the endorphins going. And so I did that. You know, there's just a lot of things that you can do. You know, you don't have to have snowmobiles. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, snowboard. That's not that expensive.
Yeah, there's just so many things that we lost.
Snowshoe.
Exactly. I did that last week. Yeah, there's just so many things that we can do to get outside and have fun. And it is whatever it is that you do to fulfill your, you know, what you need inside. You know, you talked about I listened to the Coach Blue one yesterday about the dopamine rush that you're missing if you're not working out, if you're not doing some of those things. And I need some of that. Not a lot of it. I mean, I'm not a crazy like adrenaline junkie, but like yesterday I got my dopamine rush being on top of Angel's Landing, and I did something I didn't want to do, you know? So there's nothing bad with that.
Yeah, you make a point that I've made a lot. Adrenaline junkies actually aren't adrenaline junkies. They're dopamine junkies,
Are they?
but they just don't know it, right? We call it adrenaline, but what you're looking for is dopamine, which is a very pleasurable chemical, which is released in massive amounts by oxycodone, for example.
Yeah.
So you got to replace that, but you got to replace it in moderation.
Yeah.
You can't do all dopamine all the time, or that's not life either.
Yeah.
So, okay, Recovery Strong. I want to know. I don't really know as much about it, so tell me about that. What that organization does, how people could get involved, that sort of thing.
So what it is, it's more of an online presence. You know, we've done free workouts. So we had our gym. My sister owns a kickboxing MMA gym up in Kaysville where we did free workouts for the community. Every Tuesday night we'd have a workout for a half an hour, and then we'd circle up and have a meeting afterwards. That we were almost at our 2-year anniversary, and then COVID hit. And so we had to stop doing those. We brought it back. I started doing them outside at my shop once the weather got good. We did that on the grass. And so we'd have treatment centers. We'd have 20 to 30 people a week. Anybody was invited, anybody that struggled, anybody that wanted to come. We tried to raise the awareness, and was what we did. And so now it's just an awareness brand. We're still working on some of the play, you know, what we want to do with it right now. But for some reason, it's a pet project, and I'm very careful with what I do with it, and I want to make sure that I take it the right direction. And so right now it's just an awareness brand, but we've got a lot of things coming up, and I'm excited about. So,
Great.
you know, and I think it's a good looking shirt. And
I love it.
You know, like if I didn't own it, I would still wear it. So, but you know, and another cool thing, I'm humbled to be able to come and sit in these kind of things and actually feel like somebody wants to hear what I have to say, you know, because you follow the people that you've had in this in this same chair, And it shows where through recovery I have come with my life, you know, because I was the guy that nobody wanted to talk to, nobody wanted to have come to a party. They were nervous about what I was going to say or do. And now it's almost like I feel that I'm a respected human being and I'm respectable, you know, and I love myself for that today. And so I'm grateful to be here and I'm grateful for this opportunity. So you fit in. Yeah, exactly.
All of a sudden you fit in.
Bunch of addicts or recovering addicts, you know, a bunch of crazy people. So,
right.
Yeah.
But you found a place where you fit in, and that's that connection is so important.
I would say we're grateful that you came down, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the short time that I've got to get to know you kind of this morning, just chatting it up, you're a salt of the earth guy. Yeah. Like you're a man's man. Like you're a good dude. About the only thing, character defect, I warned you, Sellers is probably gonna give you a hard time about. You got to put a ring on that girl's finger, bro. How long you been with your lady?
7 or 8 years.
Get him, Sellers.
Pull the damn trigger already. Jeez, what is going on?
I know. COVID.
Yeah.
COVID. What? COVID?
No, right now is the perfect time to get married because then I don't have to invite people to the wedding.
Listen, I've been married 39 years. Let me give you a tiny little bit of advice. You are going to want to invite people to your wedding.
Gotcha.
Yeah, let your girlfriend do most of this planning because this is her deal for sure.
But who am I kidding? She might not want to get married.
Right.
So, you know,
no, listen, I don't know her. So, that's possibly true, right? She might say no. I doubt it. Right?
Yeah.
Too funny. Well, listen, you guys got two beautiful kids together. I would roll the dice, brother, and see how it comes out. It might just surprise you. And seriously, with all my heart, thank you for coming down. Thank you for making the effort.
Great story.
You're doing great things. We appreciate your story. And just keep sharing, bro.
You can come to my party anytime.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and go on recoverystrong.com.
Oh,
you guys, we can go on there. I'll put a discount code for We Do Recover 25 for 25% off, and we use the money to do good. You know,
real quick, what all products do you have?
We have hoodies, hats, shirts, all sorts of stuff. Just cool apparel to wear that help break the stigma.
Cool. So, check them out. Recoverystrong.com. Join us next week for episode 28. Without Sean.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. This has been a production from A Podcast Studio.